So I'm Linda Thompson, the Osnaha Board Administrator. Welcome to July's education session. Thank you for joining us today. Just to let you know, you have all been muted to avoid noise disruptions during this session. And we would request that using the chat function, please identify the name of your company if you did not RSVP to me. That way we know who's on and I can get in touch with you for further education sessions if you would be interested. And once I put you on our broadcast list, understand that you can always opt out and we won't bother you any further. Let's see, what else? We're going to have a Q&A session after the main presentation, but you can send in your questions by chat anytime you want to. So if you're on computer, just send me your chat questions and we will take them at the end of the session. The thing that we have right now is it looks like, let me see what we've got here. Okay, it looks like we have a missing presenter. Evan Westonsee was supposed to be on with Home Care Pulse. He is not. He never confirmed that he would be part of this, and nobody's answering the phone at Home Care Pulse right now. And so Jude is a member of Home Care Pulse, and he's got all the numbers and all the facts and figures. So he's diligently working on his part of this. He's going to take the presentation and talk about the 2021 report. So hold all your questions until the end of the session. Hopefully Jude can answer them. And if not, we'll forward them to Evan and hopefully we can get those back to you. Just make sure that I have your contact information before we do this. At this time, we are going to introduce At this time, we're going to do a quick overview from one of our associate members, Carevoyant. Joe Gura is our speaker, and Carevoyant is a cloud-based integrated healthcare software to manage multiple lines of service that includes home-based in-home care businesses. Joe is a senior account executive based out of Illinois, and some of you may have met him at our 2019 conference. Joe, it's all yours.
All right, thank you, Linda, and thanks to the Arizona In-Home Care Association for allowing me to present the Carevoyant home care software solution. Carevoyant provides an integrated cloud-based software solution for agencies providing private duty nursing, private duty personal care, home and community-based services, and home health services. You can manage all of these services on one software under one patient and one employee record. Carevoyant functions streamline workflow, meet regulatory requirements, improve quality of care, optimize reimbursement, and bring operational efficiency. Carevoyant business intelligence tools identify trends and exceptions that can be both clinical and financial in nature that help healthcare providers make more informed decisions. Carevoyant's intake and authorization functions will allow you to establish a single patient record for one or multiple lines of service, private duty nursing, non-medical, personal care, home and community-based services, and home health. It will allow you to also consolidate all the patient's clinical and financial records under one patient for all your lines of services. It will allow you to create multiple admission records for a patient to track historical, clinical, and financial information. And finally, it'll allow you to manage insurance, Medicaid, or managed care service authorizations. Carevoyant Scheduling is an easy-to-use tool that will allow the scheduler to manage both visits and hourly schedules in one screen. Carevoyant's intelligent matching feature matches employee skills, patient preferences, employee availability, travel time and distance, and other factors to come up with the matching employees to fill a shift or a visit. You can publish shift offers and available shifts to employees, providing a pool of employees for the shift. This will make scheduling more efficient and reduce your uncovered shifts and lost revenue. Carevoyant schedule alerts will proactively detect issues such as duplicate schedules for patients and employees, schedules beyond authorization, employee expired licenses, and much more. And it will alert schedulers, thereby reducing potential scheduling errors and conflicts. Using Carevoyant schedule functions, you can manage overtime, shift differentials, weekend differentials, and holiday pay. You can also effectively manage split shifts without having to create multiple schedules. CV Miles will calculate employee travel time and distance for the shift or visit, thereby optimizing the utilization of employees. This improves the revenue for the home care agency as the caregivers are focusing more on patient care and less on travel or unproductive time. Integration with authorizations will prevent the scheduler from scheduling shifts or visits beyond authorization limits. So this is going to eliminate your non-billable shifts or visits. And then it has integration with billing and authorization, which will significantly reduce time spent on creating charges and payroll entries and improve operational efficiency. Carevoyant's clinical and point of care operates on Android tablets, Chromebooks, iPad, or Windows devices. Carevoyant's clinical and point of care application is integrated with your intake, order entry, 485 plan of care, scheduling, and billing. And Carevoyant has a complete library of Briggs forms and assessments. You can create the OASIS and or the 485 from the comprehensive assessment. For private duty nursing agencies, Carevoyant point of care can handle complex and unique documentation requirements such as EMAR and ETAR. And then Carevoyant point of care makes continuous care documentation efficient and easy to use by allowing the nurse to document in one screen. And then finally, Carevoyant alerts the nurse to any overdue medications, treatments, vitals, or any other documentation, thereby improving the quality of care and compliance. Carevoyant CV Mobile is an easy to use platform for EVV using GPS. With its real-time schedule and aid care plan documentation, CV Mobile captures GPS location, tasks performed, and time in and time out at the point of care for each shift or visit. CV Mobile also has a real-time, allows for real-time monitoring of missed shifts, visits, and tasks, and is integrated with authorizations, scheduling, billing, and payroll. And you can also exchange HIPAA compliant secure messages with your aides, as well as automatic schedule reminders, shift offers, and event notifications, such as an automatic notification that a license or credential is expiring soon. And then you can export EVV information to your state aggregator using Carevoyant's EVV framework. And then Carevoyant Billing and Accounts Receivable is a complete and comprehensive billing engine designed to manage disparate payer requirements for private duty nursing, private duty personal care, home and community-based services, and home health. Carevoyant can bill Medicare, Medicaid, Medicaid waivers, private insurances, MCOs, and private pay. And then Carevoyant provides effective revenue cycle management by integrating intake, eligibility verification, authorizations, claims and statements management, electronic remittance, and collections, all in a single seamless solution. Carevoyant allows agencies with multiple programs to provide a consolidated billing statement for all services to a patient. And then agencies can also get consolidated financial and statistical reports across the multiple business lines. And then finally, for more information on Carevoyant, please visit our website at www.carevoyant.com, or you can call us at 888-463-6797, or you can contact us by email at sales@carevoyant.com. Thank you, and we look forward to hearing from you soon.
Thank you, Joe. We're always interested in hearing from our associate members, and we really appreciate what you offer our agency members. Jude, if you're ready, I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Yeah, let's do this. All right. First of all, I got to say, I'm sorry, guys. You all tuned in to hear from Home Care Pulse, and you have me, this creepy guy with a mustache. At least I'm wearing the Sun shirt representing that today. In all seriousness, though, I apologize because I'm in charge of heading up the education meetings, and this meeting was set up for months ago, and I just got confirmation from them through another person that they canceled. Very frustrating. I mean, I've had great experience with Home Care Pulse. They're a great research company that helps me, and I think a lot of others learn a little bit about how to grow your company. But I'm here. If you wanna, I'm going to try to go through this and present, because I very much love their industry data that they provide. But I don't work for Home Care Pulse. I am just a home care owner that looks in their information. So if you want to stick with me, great. I'm not going to be disappointed if you don't. But I think first of all, talk a little bit about them. And luckily I brought with me my Home Care Pulse benchmarking report for this past year. To me, that's something that I always look forward to that comes out, because you could say you're a good agency, you do this great, you do that great, or you need to improve here or there. But without data that you could compare yourself to other agencies, it's really just kind of a guessing game. And so that's what I really like about Home Care Pulse, is where I could see all these different metrics and areas and how I compare with other agencies. Today's presentation was specifically supposed to go into data that they dive into regarding the Arizona area. As again, I was not prepared to do this. I don't have the Arizona data, but I do have the national data, and some of which is on the regional side. So I'm going to be talking more on the national or regional side there. But the first part I want to go through, I picked out like 10 different topics that I find very useful as an agency owner to gauge myself and how to compare and grow. And the first one is on recruiting. Obviously, that is a huge thing for everyone these days, as we're, I believe, all struggling. I haven't spoke to a single agency that isn't struggling on the recruiting side. And if you do have the benchmarking report, it's on page 39. And what this report talks about is the types of recruiting sources and methods that agencies have the most success with. And I don't know, feel free to use the chat room or speak up if you have any input, but I've, over the last several years, have kind of, they don't break this one down by region. And I disagree with this, because their number one source by far and above throughout the nation is using Indeed. Indeed used to be really good for us years ago, but it got very costly, and the quantity just has kind of dried up. But apparently nationwide, more than a third of all of recruiting candidates come from Indeed with home care agencies. The second one, which shouldn't be any surprise, is from current employees, current or former employees. I mean, hey, I think that's the best way to go, because what we do, and I think a lot of agencies do, is provide a bonus to your employee to bring in their friends and family. And no better way of knowing what a potential caregiver could be is by the quality of their friend or family that already works for you. And instead of paying a job board like Indeed or Craigslist, why not pay your caregiver directly? So I like that one, and that is the second best recruiting source for this past year. The third one is another form of internet with mostly more gained towards social media, talking about the Facebooks, Twitters, LinkedIn. Personally, we get a lot of traction that way, but the conversion rate isn't so high. We get a lot of interest, but then not so much follow through, but that is shown as to be the third best one. So that's the one of, I think, 9 areas that I wanted to target. Again, remember, you have the chat feature, or we'll do a Q&A at the end as well to ask any questions. So then the second area that I wanted to talk a little bit about was caregiver turnover, which, if again you have the report, it's on page 41. Actually, I'm sorry, bad handwriting, page 49. And so what we're talking about here is the historical turnover rate. Good news is, because there's not a lot of good news with hiring and turnover, but good news is that we have kind of steadied out with the turnover. 2 years ago, turnover topped out at over 80% of your caregivers were turning over. 2 years ago, it dropped significantly down to nearly 65%, and it's stuck right there at that same amount this past year. And my thought process is there was a lot of communication with all of us and our employees with COVID, and I think the special recognition. I know my company in particular, we increased pay with Hero Pay as a result of some PPP loan that we got and some other things that we did for our employees. So I think a lot of others have done that, and it has shown with helping with that retention there. I like to say, it's not either or, recruiting or retention. They work together, but at the same time, you could be hiring 10 people a week, but if you can't retain them, you're going to have to keep hiring 10 people. Maybe if you were able to improve your retention, maybe you could hire less. And so don't lose sight of that retention aspect, because that could help spin the wheels a little less than you had to if you could work better on that retention there. Going to number 3, I'm going to talk a little bit about the wages, and that is on page 61. If you flip to there, this is broken down by the region. It's not state specific by Arizona, but I do have by region where we're considered in the central region. And even though this report is only out for a couple of months, I really think this piece of data might even already be out of date, because as we're seeing within our industry, within all industries, wages keep rising. But what you see here is that the median caregiver rate was between $12 and $13 an hour in 2020. That 12 is more on that companion homemaker side, whereas the 13 is if they're certified nursing assistant. And to think 12 and 13, that just from our own rates and what I know of other agencies, that's already probably at least $1 outdated because of how quickly things are changing in the employment sector right now. I'm going to move along now to page 88, and we're getting out of the whole recruiting retention. Now we're going to go more into the finance side of it. And on page 88, we're talking about revenue. Obviously, that's a very large way of looking at seeing overall how an agency is doing by the revenue. And this is also broken out by region. And what you'll see is that the median home care agency in our central region is just a little under $2 million. It comes in at $1,915,000 is what the median revenue is of a home care agency in our region there. So this kind of went back to the beginning. These are kind of good comparisons. Are you median? Are you a little above, a little beyond? And then when we break into these individual areas I'm going where I'm talking about turnover or retention, all these things affect your overall revenue. So if your turnover is high, if you could get that down a little bit, that's going to ultimately help with that revenue and so forth. So that's what I love so much about this benchmarking study, is seeing, okay, where are we struggling, and how can we work on specific things to get better at that, so that on the overall, whether it's from revenue, gross profit margin, or whatever, that we could be at and above what the median is of all the agencies throughout the country there. So what I will also kind of mention out here is that with that revenue, I think they have so many different types of breakdowns, and they'll break it down based upon population served, about how many years of business, and so forth. And so one thing to keep in mind is if you're a newer agency, doing $2 million a year might be kind of challenging and difficult to do. But if you're starting out and you've only been in business for a couple of years, you'll see, someone that's only been in business for a year, the median is more about $500,000. Whereas if you've been in business for 10 plus years, that median is actually at 2.6 million. So it's also nice to be able to look at things from these different angles here that kind of tune in even more to not just our region, but who you are as a company. You know, you could look at it by number of locations. You know, most of us are a single standalone location. And so that median revenue actually comes down a little bit to about $1.5 million. But those that have 3+ locations, over 5 million is that revenue. So anyway, I'm going to now move on to the profit and loss. That's page 93. And I'm trying to think here, so I'm not just talking to break it up. I was on vacation last week with my brother and his family, and his daughter is going to be a sophomore at Penn State, and she's interested in accounting, finance, and I joked around with her that I was when I was in college as well, until it took me 4 semesters to pass the intro to finance. And I thought, you know what, maybe unless I want to go to school until I'm 40, maybe I should go a different route. And so I went with marketing, which is suited for me and probably the little easier one for those that aren't, astute learners there. So, but at the same time, I do love looking at the accounting now. Might be a little bit slower on it, but I love it. And so this page on 93 gives a profit and loss comparison for, again, comparing us to all the other companies. So there's so much you could look at here. You know, you might say, oh, I feel like we have such a great workers' comp rate, but you could compare yourself and see on here what the percentages, for example, is workers' comp. You know, the average in our region pays 1.0%, exactly 1% in workers' comp insurance. So if you're paying a lot more than that, you probably either have too many worker comp issues, so maybe you need to do a little better training, maybe you need to be a little more, hire more experienced people, or maybe you have a bad workers' comp carrier that's taking advantage of you. So it's great to look at all these different areas. Some that I do, the biggest one that I think all of you should do is be looking at your total direct care expenses. That equates to your caregiver wages, the insurance, benefits, payroll taxes, ongoing training. But really what we're focusing on is those caregiver wages, because that ultimately is going to determine, in my opinion, whether you are a financially strong company or whether you are maybe paying too much or billing too little, or a combination of the two. And I know it's hard as an agency owner to do rate increases because you're always nervous, concerned. Is my client going to be okay with this? Can I do that? Are they going to fire us and go to another agency? And what I'll say, giving away my trade secrets, is that given a good explanation as to why you're raising rates, don't just do it blindly, but give an explanation as to why you're doing it, and going about in that manner. I don't know, maybe we lost 1 or 2 clients over the years, but it allows us to continue to increase those caregiver wages without sacrificing on our margin. And if you don't do that, then you don't have a healthy mix there of what you should be bringing in from a gross margin standpoint, because really that caregiver wage is your number one cost among everything else, regarding whether it's your office space, your cost to your other office employees, or whatever it might be. Your caregiver wages is your number one expense. So you got to be really careful about making sure to raise your wages when you're raising rates there, and vice versa. Taking a look at this, it breaks it down by your direct care expenses, your caregiver recruitment and retention. So actually, let me kind of back it up. And had I known I was going to do this presentation, it'd be great to actually have a slideshow here. But if you look at basically 100% of all your expenses, 60% of it come from that direct care expense. So that's where I'm saying that's the make or break, and that's mostly with your caregiver wages. 3%, not a big part, but 3% is your recruitment and retention. That's our biggest issues right now in our industry, is recruiting and retention. So make sure you're not skimping on that you're putting the necessary effort and money and attention into that so that you actually get people. The next is 4.5% is what is allotted to the recruitment and retention of your sales and marketing is 4.5%. So that includes sales reps expenses. That includes maybe any SEO you do online or any other lead generation. That would also include networking events, maybe, coffees for social workers, those types of things. But you want to make sure that you are putting in about 4.5% towards your sales and marketing expense. The last one, which is the second biggest, is your operating expenses. And I think this is also an area which some people could make some dangerous mistakes. And the biggest, I think, mistake it goes back to wages again. It's the wages of your office staff. And with the office staff, there's another slide I'm going to go to, or page I'm going to go to, talking about the full-time, the revenue per full-time employee. And that's a really good gauge. Well, I'll talk a little bit about that later. But the point is, you want to make sure that you are having the appropriate office staff. If you don't have the appropriate office staff, you have too little people, you're going to burn your people out and they're going to leave. If you're have too much, you're overpaying and not getting the return. So I think I'll actually skip to that one right now, which is on page 126. And I really love this one because, again, if you're like me, if you're not a franchise, maybe if you're a franchise, you're able to talk maybe with your franchise a little bit. But when you don't have those people to talk to, these reports are so great. And so as a company like myself, who's always growing, knock on wood, I'm always trying to figure out, all right, when's the next time to make that next office hire? And so what's great about this report is if you take your total revenue, so whatever you did last year, let's just say for the sake of argument, you did $1 million revenue and you have 3 office people. So you take that $1 million, divide it by 3, that comes up to $333,000. That's your amount of sales revenue that you have per full-time employee. And then you compare it to this report. And what you'll see is that in our region, you're looking at somewhere around $280,000 is the sales per full-time equivalent. So in my hypothetical example, if I'm at $333,000, one, in some ways that's good because I'm not overspending, but I also got to be careful here as well because I might be getting at the point where I need to hire another person because I might be burning out our staff, and not just burning out our staff. How's that affecting our quality of care? Our calls going unanswered, our supervisory business not happening in a timely fashion because our staff is overwhelmed. So I love this report because when you're growing like this, you need to know when is the time to make that next hire. And this is a great, great report here to see that. I'm going to take a second to look at the chat feature because I think I saw a couple questions come in and I want to make sure I answer those in a timely fashion here. Let's see here. There's even more coming in than I realized. Let's see. So someone mentioned that the specific Arizona report that the top 5 recruitment sources are still Indeed. So maybe I'm just doing something wrong because even for Arizona, it's saying Indeed, social media, ZipRecruiter, and MyCNA Jobs. The data that is, I'm sorry, I'm trying to read this and look at the same time. Sorry for the pauses and confusion. Okay, so I'm going to skip down. There was a question about what's the client average lifetime value? That's a good question. And I am going to look at one. That was one that I was thinking about including here, but I didn't. So I'm glad you asked because it is a very important one. I'm trying to figure out where that is. Client average lifetime value. Here it is. Okay, page 123 talks about client average lifetime value. And in layman's terms, what this means is how much revenue does a single client bring in on average to you. And I know I've had a lot of discussions with a lot of people, not just this past year, but over the last couple of years, where they're saying that lifetime value has been getting less and less. And what it shows here is that the lifetime average is a little over $11,000. So, take your 24-hour client, it's 24/7, obviously 168 hours a week, a lot of revenue to maybe compared to the one that's just doing a few hours a week. The average is coming out to a little over $11,000. Now, actually, I apologize. I was looking at the wrong year. Comes out to a little over $15,000. And what's interesting here is that although I said that I've been hearing anecdotally that has been shrinking, what you'll see is that it's actually been increasing according to the Home Care Pulse report here. It was over 15,000 last year. The year before, it was about $13,000. The year before that, about 11. And then back in 27, 8,000. So it is steadily increasing. I'm doing a rough math on it, about 15% or so a year. So for those that are having it decrease, these are those conversations where you got to close the door, knock out distractions and think, what's going on? Why is mine going down if everyone else is going up? Maybe just throwing out ideas. Maybe are you having less long-term care insurance clients? Because we all know those generally seem to last a little longer than others. Have maybe your marketing efforts changed a little bit? Are you maybe getting more referrals from rehab facilities where they're discharging and only needing help for a little bit before getting better? Maybe you're taking on a lot of hospice clients that, as we know, they're on hospice. They don't last forever. So if yours is going down, you might kind of want to look at why is it, and you might be able to find some of those answers there. And if you're okay with that, if you have some great referral sources in those rehabs and hospices, fine. You just understand yours is a little different. But if you want to be higher, then maybe you got to diversify a little bit and look at your marketing and try to diversify it by reaching out to some other ones like elder law attorneys, the long-term care insurance ones, and so forth there. Good question. I like that one. I'm going to now move on here. What do I have? I think 2 more left. And that is then moving on to page 131, which I'm speaking out loud here. I don't expect that everyone has this report, but I'm doing this so I know where to go. But page 131 talks about office staff turnover. And I thought, we always talk about caregiver turnover, but I thought I want to talk a little bit about office staff as well, because if you've been following the news and so forth, we're seeing that, I'm talking blanket industry, not our industry, but all industries, that we are seeing that there is kind of this effect going on where people don't want to go back to an office to work. They've been working from home. People are kind of reassessing what their values are in life and trying to figure out. So in turn, there's a lot of turnover happening in all industries. And so let's try to get ahead of that now before you start losing some of your office staff that might be in that same boat of what's kind of going on in our world right now. So with office staff turnover, typically what you see is about a 25% turnover per year. That's actually increased over the last several years. It was as high as 33% and then kind of steadily has come down from 29 to 25 where we are now. But this is something we have to keep close attention on, because I won't be surprised if next year we see that up a little bit because of the events that are going on in the world right now. That is something that I'm putting a lot of effort in, because we've had a little bit of turnover, and I'm trying to, mitigate that from happening. The last area that I'm going to go over before opening up to any questions is on the next page on 132, and that's talking about office staff benefits. And this goes hand in hand with turnover. I know firsthand, I lost an employee a few weeks ago to not a direct competitor, but someone in a hospice setting. And one thing I was really excited to know was that this very well known hospice, and our benefits lined up were actually better, I think, overall. Maybe equal. Some areas we were better, others not. And that's good to know, because you don't want to lose an employee because of your benefits, especially if you value them. And what you'll see is that most agencies are offering paid time off. Well, actually, we have to here in Arizona, at least with the sick time. But that's something that is almost universal. Everyone is doing there. When it comes to health, though, you're only looking at the median 60% do. And those that are under $1 million really bring that down because they don't have to per se. But you're only still looking at about 2/3 that do. So if you're not offering health benefits, that's something that you want to try to look into, because that's something that is kind of normal at this point in time. A few years ago that wasn't the case, but it is pretty normal now. Dental, it's about 50% participation there. And what I'll tell you here as well, guys, is medical costs money for those that aren't doing it. You could pretty much offer dental, vision, other supplemental benefits without it actually costing you any money. So you still look like a good guy because you're offering those benefits. And I know Scott is on here. I think he has that other company that provides benefits, and I know he's talked to before about that. So you don't, if it's a financial thing that's holding you back, know that there's other benefits you could offer that don't cost money from that health standpoint. But the main ones we're talking about are the paid time off, sick leave, medical, and dental. There's about a 50% participation with 401k matching. I'll say personally, I love that one. I love to offer it, but not a lot of employees take advantage of that. But then you have some others as well, the education reimbursement, childcare, daycare services, and so forth. And you just want to think about it. If you're an employee and working in your office and doing a good job, is that employee being shortchanged at all? Shortchanged is not the right word, but are they getting similar benefits as to what they'll get if they were to come over to my agency or your other competitor's agency? And we know how hard it is to get people. So do your best to provide those benefits, because that is important to people. Outside of this report, I'll also mention what I like to do is annual reviews include that total compensation, showing that to your employee. So what I mean by that is, your employee may be making $50,000 a year, and they may earn $10,000 in bonuses, and they have health benefits, and they participate in the 401k. Show the value of what all those things are that they're paying, because that $50,000 a year, you're not paying them $50,000 and $10,000 a bonus. You're probably paying, that comes out to 60. You're probably paying about $75,000. So show them that what you are paying, because I think that means something that they usually don't realize or know. But there is that value of that matching benefit of retirement that you're offering, and the cost of the health benefits and whatever else you may offer, gym membership or whatnot. So with that being said, I was totally not expecting to do this today. I'm glad it wasn't in person, so there weren't any tomatoes thrown at me. And if you stuck in here with me, I appreciate it. If you have any questions, now is a good time to unmute yourself, ask those questions, or enter them into the chat room there. I'll pass it back to Linda to see if there's any questions to help me with that.
Okay, Jude, there was a couple that came through. And by the way, thank you, Zach, for answering some of the questions in the chat room as Jude went on. Patrick asked, what is the most important trend in the in-home care industry that needs to be addressed in 2021?
I think hands down, it's to say the recruiting issues that we're having. And the trend is not good. It is extremely difficult to hire. I mean, I like to think I'm a pretty successful agency, been around a while, doing a good job. I literally, this morning, I've been out putting now hiring signs into street corners and so forth. It's to that point. I'm doing and trying anything I can different to get people in. So yeah, the recruiting's really hard. I know myself and others are experiencing the issues of having to turn away business. We've been seeing that, never seen that in the previous 11 years of doing this. And you see it across industries. On vacation a couple weeks ago, businesses, maybe some of your favorite restaurants, they're not open for lunch because they don't have staff. Or I know I'm getting older, but I was shopping in a couple places. I'm thinking these kids look like they're in middle school. They're not even in high school. And I think, places that normally wouldn't hire a 15-year-old are doing so now because they're hiring anyone they can. This is in the service industry, so not a 15-year-old caregiver per se. But But the point is that the recruiting is, you know, we all thought it was always challenging, difficult. Boy, I'd love to have that. That was a breeze compared to what we're going through now. So I think it's trying to look at, you can't just do things the way you always have. You know, it's looking at how can you do things differently? Can you put out hiring signs? Do you try this Facebook or the social media type that maybe people haven't done before? Just trying new things, because if you keep doing what you've always been doing, that's not going to work. But that is without a doubt the number one issue right now. Trend is the recruiting aspect.
Thanks for that, Jude. And then Dr. Pinto asks, does it provide a breakdown of the average age of the caregivers?
No, it does not go into, I'm trying to see if there's anything I could speak to that, the average age of caregivers. No, so come to think of it, caregivers, let me try to take a quick glance here, because so it talks about where you find caregivers, shortage, lifetime value of caregivers, turnover rates, the pay ranges, training benefits. No, it doesn't really go into demographics such as age, and maybe kind of think it might be kind of an HR issue if you're going into age and you know, religion and culture and things like that. But I think those are good things to try to understand, because there are different areas where you could target people. If we know that the average caregiver age is 45, you know, and you want to do some media advertising, what are the radio stations that 45-year-olds listen to? You don't want to be advertising on a radio station that is for 20-year-olds. But yeah, unfortunately, though, they don't have that type of demographic information.
Jude, that's all the questions. So if you want to wrap it up, go for it.
Cool.
I'll type in with a quick one verbally, because it's just a lot easier than typing. First of all, Jude, great job for having to jump in on unexpectedly. You did a great job of giving us some good data, so thank you. And as far as the benefits go, next month, I believe, I have to confirm with Linda, but I think I'm the guest speaker talking about the benefit program. So anybody who either needs to get a health insurance program because they are now going to need to comply with the ACA, because I think a lot of us had a good year this year and are going to need to comply next year if you may not have had to before. We can help you out with that, and we're going to show you a lot of different benefits and plans you can offer for both your caregivers and your office. So check that out next month's ASNAHA meeting. And then question, when you were talking about revenue per full-time employee, did you say 208 or 280?
Yes, I believe it was 280, but let me confirm that.
And on that same topic, what was the total percentage of office payroll for the P&L?
Okay, yeah.
I'm a bad boy. I didn't grab my home care pulse this year because it was such a fluke year that I figured the numbers are going to be meaningless to this year. So I was like,
Yeah, I hear you. The other part you said about the profit and loss, what was the question on that part?
What total percentage did they show for office staff?
Yeah. So for the central region, they're showing 52.5% is the caregiver wages.
But what about the office?
Oh, I'm sorry. Office, yes. Office was 7.9%.
They have sales and marketing separate from that, I think, right?
Good point. Yes, it is, that because the sales and marketing is a part of the sales and marketing expenses. So the sales rep salary is within there. So good point. So don't include the sales rep salary or bonuses in that 7.9%. That's a part of the 4.5% that's in the sales and marketing.
I've always thought that was kind of weird the way they've added the sales and marketing as one category, including your salesperson.
Yeah.
And separated that out from office pay, and you're trying to figure out, well, how much that is salesperson pay compared to marketing fees and then advertising expenses.
Yeah. But you know, this P&L to me is if there's one page, you always kind of say, oh, there's one thing to take away from it. Maybe this would be it for me, because we need to be able to benchmark ourselves. And I know you, Scott, we talk a little bit, but we don't know details, nor maybe do we want to even share those details. But you could look at these details here and say, yes, I'm doing good here. No, I'm not. I need to improve upon this. And obviously, we all got in this because we have a caring heart and we want to help people and make a difference. But part of helping people and being able to make a difference is making sure that you're running a sound financial company. And sometimes you might be thinking you're doing something that's right on par, and you can see, oh wow, I'm actually way off here. I was paying my sales rep, 5% alone of my total revenue, and that's more than what the whole sales and marketing budget even comes up with. So this is, to me, this is the Bible piece of this here is being able to make sure we have things dialed in here. And if you don't, at the same time, I say it's the Bible, but at the same time, if you have a good reason for having maybe a higher percent on one of these areas, I think that's okay, as long as you know that you do and have a good reason as to it. Because this isn't, set stone, doesn't have to be this way, but it's good to know how to compare yourself.
Yeah, and that leads me to one last question, because I think that's a great point, is what are they showing for bottom line profit this year? Is because, you could say, like I said, maybe I'm paying my caregivers more than anybody else, but I'm paying, less here and I'm making it up in this. And what are they bottom lining? I know it's usually runs between 92% gross costs and 8 to 10% profit. Just curious what this year's number showed.
Yes. So I don't have a calculator in front of me. Can someone add 64 plus 4.5 plus 22.7?
91.2.
91.2. So that is all the expenses excluding, so not including owner's salary and benefits. And so, I have a email subscription from Steve the Hurricane, who maybe some of you do as well. And he had a recent video talking about this page as well. And what he was pointing at is that that's bad. And it is, because that leaves only, 9.1 or 9.2?
8.8% bottom line.
I'm sorry, what was that?
8.8 total bottom line.
Yeah.
Including owner.
And so that's the owner's salary and then any profits of the company on top of that. Whereas what they should be, according to a lot of experts, is more like 20%. And so where is it that we try to get things back in order here? The biggest way to do so is with that caregiver wages. And I'm convinced from talking to others is that agencies feel the pressure to increase wages, but they don't do so in a proportion of raising the rates. And that was an issue even with myself in my first few years. I did the same thing before getting on track with that. But you're set for failure if you don't do them proportionately there. And I bet any money that's what's going on here with companies, is that they are not raising rates when they're raising wages, because that's the biggest factor. That 52.5% of it come down to the caregiver wages.
Yeah, I would say kudos to anybody if you're pulling 20 in this industry. Their benchmark has always been 8 to 10, and I usually fall right around that area, mostly because we're just paying our caregivers a lot of money and trying to keep care as affordable as we can. And it's a tough industry to pull 20. I mean, it takes some really, really tight management and some really rates have to, like you said, you have to adjust your rates very quickly to caregiver pay changes and stuff. But it would be nice.
Yeah, and you have on here, you have one line item which is for franchise royalty fees, and if you're independent like myself, it's 4.8%. So
yeah,
that
helps.
4.8%, I'm able to reallocate that into different areas there, and that's helpful there. So
very good point.
Other than that, I think all the other items apply to any agency, but that's the one that's a pretty big chunk as well that may or may not apply to you.
Yeah,
Jude?
Good point.
Jude?
Yeah.
The reason I asked the question about the age of the caregiver is, in general, what is the experience of the group hiring a more, I guess to use Patrick's term, a seasoned individual. So I know 70-year-olds that are children and I know 20-year-olds that are adults. So what's the general gist of age you're seeing?
Yeah, I haven't really followed that closely, but I'd say anecdotally, I feel pretty confident that the average age is, maybe in the 40s. But yeah, we have that whole wide range. We have we have a couple 18-year-olds that are CNAs that were finishing high school, and then we have some that are in their upper 70s that are workers' comp company doesn't like because they consider them a risk. But I feel like I'm talking to a family here. What I always say is that they're, regardless of age, because we've got to be careful about discrimination, is that they all have the heart and want to make a difference helping someone. But yeah, some like you said, some 20-year-olds are more like 7-year-olds and vice versa there. But it is, I would guess 40s, but yeah, they come of all ages and whatnot. But again, that kind of goes back to where you're looking for caregivers as well. We focus a lot on different schools and so forth, so they are younger. And so ours may be a little bit younger in that aspect. And whereas some others might already have an older group and they work their current employees really hard. And so their friends are older as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions? I guess I have one last question. I'm just trying to figure out where I send my invoice to Home Care Pulse for doing their job today. But no, I did enjoy it. I love talking about these things, and I just hope I sounded somewhat educated about it. And if I didn't, my excuse is I wasn't knowing I was going to be talking until about 5 minutes beforehand. So thank you for bearing with me, and I hope you did learn something. And we do have an education meeting every month. We don't have next month set up yet, but I do have a few other people in the hopper, some national speakers that you're probably aware of, and just trying to plug in dates and so forth. And we'll have that information soon. But usually, we're like the third Wednesday is usually kind of where we fall in line. But Linda always gets that communication out to you when we have it. So thank you all. Appreciate you attending, and have a great rest of your day.
Real quick.
Jude, well done.
Oh yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Real quick.
Thank you, Jude.
I do think it's important to stay, because everyone on this call obviously cares about and wants to know this data. And the major reason for the miscommunication today with Home Care Pulse is they did not have enough participation from Arizona for an Arizona dedicated report. So there is some communication there where they thought they had to present on Arizona specifically and not the 2020 report nationally. And that's why they did not have it on their calendar. So as you all are very interested in this, I do want to remind you all as ASNAHA members, we have a partnership with Home Care Pulse where we get a free report specifically for Arizona, but we need to participate in order for them to do that. So please do remember, when Home Care Pulse does put out those surveys and asks for our data, to please do participate in that, so that we don't have this again, and we can get our report that speaks directly to our geography here and our industry here. But Jude, you did an awesome job. Thank you.
Sure. And one other thought about that as well is, that the participation for Arizona, or wherever that you live, that it takes some time, but there's two good benefits of it. Less important is you save a couple $100 on purchasing the report, but the real one is it's a great exercise, a great learning experience about your company. It's a good annual review at times to see, because you have to provide this data. Some of it you have at hand very easily, and some you got to dig a little bit more for. But it really is a great way to see what's going on in your business by digging up that research.
And just as a reminder to everybody on the line that we are redoing our website now. I am keeping my fingers crossed that it's going to be 100%, or at least as near close as possible to 100% ready to go by the end of the month. We're working on the final reviews as we speak, and I've got a conference call on Friday to go over everything. So once that site is done, then I'll be uploading the last 2 months and this month's education sessions to the site. For right now, take a look at it, osnaha.org. And if you see any kind of errors, anything that's missing that used to be there, please let me know, because there's two of us going over it right now, and more eyes will certainly be of help. So thank you all for joining us today. I'm going to stop the recording.